Imagine the fire dying at 3 a.m. May, its last ember winking out like a star swallowed by the dawn. The tipi falls silent, its buffalo hide walls quivering in the relentless prairie wind. Outside, the Great Plains stretch into an endless void beneath a sky sharp with stars, the air biting at 20 below zero, a cold so fierce it feels like a living thing, clawing at your skin. Your breath turns white in the dark, crystallizing into fragile clouds that vanish into the night. The last sparks fade, and the cold creeps closer, seeping through the smallest gaps like an uninvited guest. The earth beneath you is hard as ancient stone, unyielding, with no flame left to trust, no glow to chase away the shadows dancing on the walls. Most of us today would spiral into panic, fumbling for a propane heater switch, burrowing into synthetic blankets, or cranking a thermostat to summon electric warmth. But our ancestors, Lakota of the northern plains, Cree of the boreal forests, Algonquin in the eastern woodlands, Mandan along the Missouri River, Haudenosaunee in their sprawling longhouses knew a deeper truth. Their survival, forged over centuries of brutal winters, wasn't pinned to a single fire's fickle glow. It was a tapestry woven from heat, hide, and hearth, a system of resilience where every element had purpose. A tipi wasn't just a tent pitched against the elements. It was a living blanket, enveloping its inhabitants in layers of protection. A wigwam wasn't merely a dome of bark. It was a calculated defense against frost. An earth lodge wasn't just clay and timber. It was a vault of stored warmth. And the people within, pressed shoulder to shoulder in the dim glow of fading coals, were the true hearth, a beating heart of shared strength that held the cold at bay. Winters on the Great Plains or in the far northern forests were merciless, the mercury plunging to 20 below, then 30 below, sometimes lower, to depths where exposed flesh froze in minutes. A tipi's fire, tended like a fragile child with twigs from sparse cottonwood groves or traded timber, could be stolen by a single gust of wind, howling through the smoke hole like a vengeful spirit. In the woodlands, wigwam hearths burned steadier, fed by birch or pine, but dry wood was never guaranteed. A sudden thaw could soak fuel, or a blizzard could bury it under feet of snow. At the timberline, trees grew stunted, fuel as rare as game, and on the open prairie, it was scarcer still, forcing reliance on buffalo dung chips or twisted grass for kindling. Fire alone was a fickle ally, prone to betrayal, and our ancestors knew this intimately. Through centuries of trial and error lessons etched in oral histories, sung in stories around those very fires, they learned to trust more enduring forces, the architecture of their shelters, and the innate power of the human body. A tipi was an engineering marvel, far more than hides over poles. Its frame, 12 to 20 lodgepole pines lashed with rawhide, stood firm against gales. The covering buffalo hides, tanned and smoked to repel water, was stitched with sinew, creating a waterproof, wind-resistant shell. But its genius was insulation. The hides trap air like a modern down jacket, preventing heat loss while letting the structure breathe. The smoke hole, adjustable with flaps controlled by interior poles, could choke off gusts or vent smoke during cooking, maintaining a delicate balance of warmth and air. Step inside a tipi during a blizzard, and the biting wind softened to a murmur, the air warmer by critical degrees. The floor was no bare earth, that would be folly, as frozen soil steals heat faster than air. Instead layers, spruce boughs or pine needles aromatic and springy harvested from evergreens, topped with woven mats of prairie. Grass or cattail rushes then hides, buffalo for durability, elk for softness, deer for lightness, sometimes doubled or tripled with furs like wolf or beaver piled high. These stacks trapped air between layers, reflecting body heat inward, creating a microclimate where, under 3 buffalo hides, it felt like summer despite frosted breath in the open air. This principle extended to other dwellings, each adapted to its region. Algonquin wigwams, dome-shaped and framed with bent saplings, or clad in birch bark peeled in spring, its natural oils repelling moisture. Woven reed mats and heavy hides lined the interior, mimicking modern fiberglass insulation, while the dome shed snow to prevent collapse. Ventilation came from a bark-collared smoke hole, directing airflow efficiently. Mandan earth lodges, semi-subterranean with cottonwood beams and sod roofs, absorbed a fire's heat and radiated it back like a thermal battery. Low, winding entrance tunnels acted as airlocks, trapping warmth inside. Kalgan-Sawney longhouses, stretching up to 200 feet, housed entire clans, with multiple fires along a central aisle and bark walls stuffed with moss and hides. Elevated sleeping platforms kept bodies off the cold floor, and the density of people turned the space into a living incubator. Bedding was a science. Not one blanket, but a symphony of hides caribou for hollow-haired warmth, woven rabbit skin for lightness folded with deliberate gaps to trap air. The Cree might incorporate beaver pelts for waterproofing. The Lakota prized buffalo for density. The key was blocking heat loss, ground conduction, wind convection, and radiation from exposed surfaces. I've tested this in Montana winters, laying spruce boughs under a sleeping bag in '94, feeling the ground's chill transform into subtle warmth, or stacking wool blankets with newspaper for air pockets, echoing ancient ingenuity. You don't need high-tech gear, just patience and layers. Yet no shelter stood alone without its inhabitants. The hearth was never just flames, it was flesh and breath, community as combustion. In a tipi, a family shared a massive buffalo robe, children at the center radiating warmth like tiny suns, elders drawn close sharing stories to distract from the cold. In Haudenosaunee longhouses, 50 or more people under one roof created a greenhouse effect, fires secondary to the press of bodies. Smoke from central fires added warm air aloft, while sleeping platforms fostered closeness. Mandan villages interconnected, gathering families in deep freezes, turning isolation into strength. I learned this in a North Dakota winter, my fire blown out by a squall in the early 2000s. 3 of us huddled in a sleeping bag, shoulders touching, breaths sensing, surviving the night. Mountaineers zip bags on Everest. Soldiers bunk tight in Arctic training. Alone, you freeze. Together, you thrive. The art of the banked fire turned potential defeat into victory. Tribes buried coals under ash, bark, or dung, making them appear lifeless gray, cold but beneath, embers breathed, ready to flare with tinder at dawn. This saved fuel and effort when storms made wood gathering a battle. The Lakota used buffalo chips, the Cree mossy soil, each method refined over generations. In a Yukon camp, I banked a fire under ash. At first light, embers glowed like rubies, revived with cedar shavings. This wasn't improvisation, but a technique honed through ice ages, carrying life in glowing coals, transported in horn or clay pots. Preparation began in summer. Hides tanned with brains and smoke, poles seasoned, grasses woven. Elders taught how to angle a tipi's door against wind, pack snow around a wigwam's base, or dig shallow pits for warmer sleep spots. Diet fueled the body's furnace buffalo marrow, seal blubber while layered clothing mirrored shelters, fur-lined moccasins, grass-stuffed mittens. Modern reliance on furnaces falters in outages, but these principles endure. In Texas in 2021, families huddled in cars, rediscovering shared warmth. Campers layer tarps with leaves. Survivalists bank fires in backyards. In a Sierra cabin, generator dead, I lined a trench with boughs and hides, pressed close with others, and endured. Survival was never a lone warrior by the flames, but a circle family, clan, village sharing labor and warmth. Scouts signaled with smoke, stories educated, bonds wove society. In a 2018 Minnesota storm, neighbors pooled blankets in one home, echoing Haudenosaunee longhouses. If your fire died tonight, literal or metaphorical, would you be ready? Would you trap heat with boughs, bank coals for dawn, trust another's warmth? Our ancestors did, surviving epics to gift us their legacy. Have you faced a night without heat stove empty, wood wet, wind stealing your flame? What saved you a tarp shelter, a shared blanket, movement? Share below. This digital fire is our circle, where stories keep wisdom alive. Readers will nod, feeling communal warmth across time. Stay near for our next fire, sharing secrets for banking coals and layering for any climate-tested methods, ready for revival. Cherish your heat, embrace your hide, nurture your hearth. When the fire dies, the story and survival endures.